You're not ready for this one. It's no question that In Living Color was one of the groundbreaking and iconic shows of its time. I mean, it was the main reason the NFL started featuring major performances during the Super Bowl halftime. The show also incubated the careers of multiple stars like Jim Carrey, Jamie Foxx, and Jennifer Lopez, who danced as a fly girl. What you definitely have a zero idea about is the amount of drama happening behind the scenes, be it from the show's launch to the amount of censorship because of how edgy and non-PC some of the sketches were. But before I delve deeper into it, watch the show's creator and host, Keenan Ivory Wayans, talk about the show's pilot.
We did the pilot, and what was funny was that was the pilot that almost never got seen. In the last minute, Barry Diller was horrified, and I said, have him come down to the set. So Barry came down to the set, and I think one of the things he was worried about was, would gay people be offended? And that's why I invited him to come to the set. And he stood off on the side and he watched the sketch. And when the guys started going and he heard the audience, it wasn't just laughter, like people were like stomping their feet. And then he started laughing. And then when they were done, he just threw up his hands. He left. He was like, do it.
Just to give it a bit of context, In Living Color was Fox's first ever sketch show, and since the network was new, they had more room for experimenting compared to other established competitors. That's why they told Wayans, quote, "You know, if you come here, you can pretty much do anything you want to." But that wasn't the case, as Keenan had to convince Fox Network to take a shot on his concept. The show was different from others at the time because of its fearless approach to comedy and social commentary. The sketches were often edgy and unapologetically critical of societal norms. It also introduced audiences to a fresh and dynamic form of humor that was both entertaining and thought-provoking. By the way, do subscribe for more discussions like this. The show's unique format, which combined music, dance, and sketch comedy, set it apart from other programs. The Fly Girls, who were the show's dance troupe, added an energetic element that completed the comedic sketches. But that was not all. Even after shooting the pilot, the executives at Fox were still nervous about airing it. Watch Keenan talk about that fiasco in the next clip.
How long did it take between the time you shot the pilot before it got on the air?
Probably a year. And not only was that a conversation, but they hired a research group, and it was the funniest thing. I met with the research people, and I swear it was the CIA. They told me about the research they had done, and they didn't ask people if they thought things were funny. They asked them, how did it make them feel? It's like, wow. And then they asked me some questions, and they asked me, so what do you think the show is? What do you think? Like, they wanted to know my feelings about the show, and I said, I think the show is fresh and it's new. I think it's revolutionary. And they said, what do you mean revolutionary? I was like, not that kind of revolutionary.
As I mentioned earlier, this is Fox's first original sketch show, and its success or failure would impact the network's reputation for years to come. Tamara Rawit, who was a writer and producer on the show, said, quote, "Fox knew they had something special, but the execs were also concerned about potential pushback from the African-American community. So the pilot sat in long-term parking for 6 months. This proves how unapologetic its humor was, rare for its time. Garth Ansier, who was the previous Fox Entertainment president, said, quote, "By the time the pilot was finished in 1989, I had left. Peter Chernin took over, but I saw it and I knew a lot of people at Fox were offended by it." Despite these fears, Fox ultimately took the risk and the show became a cultural milestone. But things weren't all rosy. The show was at the center of multiple controversies, such as the sketches on celebrity parodies, which led to backlash from the public and sometimes from the celebrities themselves. These portrayals were often seen as harsh and disrespectful. For instance, Spike Lee reportedly hated the show. David Alan Grier, who was a cast member, said, quote, "He got really mad at us because he thought we were over the top about Do the Right Thing. He did not like us making fun of him." In an attempt to distance itself from controversy and potential lawsuits, Fox had to resort to censorship. Keenan recalls his experience with working with a censor in the next clip.
We had several approaches with the censor. Ultimately, we found common ground. But prior to that, we used to make his life miserable. Because the advantage that we had was the slang. So we knew there were things that we could say that he had no idea what they meant. It was so funny, so funny. But like I said, we used to torture the guy. But eventually, I said to him, I said, okay, let's do this. Instead of telling me what I can't say, tell me what I can say. Give me, like you can't say this, but if you say that or something like that, and we started to work with each other. And then it became much easier for both of us.
It was rumored even back in the day the existence of conflicts between Keenan and the Fox network over their censorship attempts, which included editing or outright rejecting sketches deemed too controversial or offensive. For instance, sketches that tackled racial stereotypes or featured risque humor often faced careful examination. Wayans and his team had to navigate these restrictions while trying to maintain the show's integrity and unique voice, and they got really creative while doing so. Let's just say that some of these jokes wouldn't fly in today's cultural climate, and the show would definitely get canceled after a couple of hours of it being aired. One notable instance of censorship involved a sketch parodying singer Milli Vanilli, which was pulled due to concerns over legal repercussions. Eventually, Keenan grew frustrated with the network's attempts to dilute the show's edgy content, leading to tensions that some believe contributed to his eventual departure from the show in 1992. But the main reason, as Keenan put it, was, quote, Fox started to rerun the show before it got into syndication. They were using the show to launch other shows and they were devaluing it. I felt like they were exploiting me, so I left.
Television is not entertainment. Television is programming, and television is sponsored. And so the creative people can be in love with something, but if their sponsors don't feel comfortable with being associated with something, or the government standards and practice is not comfortable, then it's not getting on the air.
That's what it boils down to. Chernin, who was the previous CEO of the Fox Group, he was even quoted as saying, quote, from a creative standpoint, I wanted the show to be as outrageous as possible, but we have an FCC license and we had advertisers and didn't want to get in any trouble. Despite the hardships faced by its creator and cast, In Living Color left a lasting impact on the entertainment industry, paved the way for future shows, and celebrated diversity and addressed important social issues through humor and satire. Its legacy continues to be a testament to the power of comedy to challenge societal norms and provoke important conversations. But what are your thoughts on this? Do you think such shows would find success in our modern times? Let's get the conversation rolling in the comments down below.